Hello everyone, and welcome to my first battle report for the Batman miniature game 2nd edition. For this game, I'm going to have a rematch from an earlier battle I had between my opponent's Court of Owls crew and my Arrow crew. So now they're the Brave and the Bold, led by TV's Arrow, and we of course have the Court of Owls, which are actually exactly the same except for some equipment as I faced last time. So we have the Court of Owls. Apparently they've been driven out of Gotham City. They're going worldwide, but Oliver Queen says, not in Starling City. We're gonna nip that in the bud right now. Let's take a look at my opponent's list. Benjamin Orchard is the leader. He's got the Gotham Butcher as his free agent, and then he's got Strix, he's got William Cobb, he's got Zhao Lung, and he's got Brandon O'Malley. He has a lot of equipment because, of course, Court of Owls don't have to spend their money on guns, so he's got lots of cash to spend. He gives stealth and climbing claws to a bunch of people. He makes a bunch of people fast. He gives the Gotham Butcher essentially close combat master. That's that. So my crew is exactly the same as last time. I'm using the Arrow, Oliver Queen from the TV show. I'm using Barry Allen, the Flash from the TV show. I'm using John Diggle. I'm using Agent Ron, who I'm going to call Officer Lance. I'm using Gotham Policewoman, who I'm going to call Officer Hall. And I'm using Gotham Policeman, who I'm going to call Officer Joe West. So I'm really excited about 2nd edition because now that we're part of the Brave and the Bold, we have a lot more options. We have a lot more options in objectives, which I'm not going to take advantage of because I haven't painted any new objectives. We also have a lot of options as far as equipment goes. I've got a lot of stuff that I've never used before. The first thing I absolutely wanted was I wanted tactical gloves on Oliver Queen. Now, in the TV show, he always starts off firing a bunch of arrows at people, but always finishes them off by punching them in the face a bunch of times. So I was really looking forward to that. John Diggle, I want to give him all the equipment in the world. I want to give him everything. In the end, all I could afford was a whistle, which is great, and an extra magazine. I would have loved to have given him a grapple gun. I would have loved to have given him riot gear. I just didn't have the money. There's too much cool stuff. I have to cut back somewhere. So Officer Lance doesn't get anything. He's just got his pistol. Officer Joe West, he gets his whistle. And then Officer Hall, Gotham Policewoman, she gets the medic. She gets medic kit or whatever that is. It gives her the medic skill. So that's brand new for me. I'm looking forward to that. So for our scenario, we rolled up Arrival. Now this sounds like a lot of fun to me. Now this is the one where you have a 12-inch by 12-inch square in the middle of the board. You deploy on the corners, and in that central square go all the objectives. So it's just going to be this giant scrum in the middle. I don't think this is great for me. I think that I'd rather not be in katana range of all those Court of Owls people. My opponent also didn't think it was great for him. One thing to note is that while he was finishing up a game of Blood Bowl, I was setting up the board, and I had it all nicely arranged and all that before we had rolled for the scenario. And then when we rolled Arrival, and we realized we needed a 12 by 12 objective zone in the center, he looks at that helipad and he says, how big is that? And I say, well, that's 12 by 12. And he says, why don't we just use that? And so, yeah, all right, so we set that up in the middle. I'm not sure that's to his advantage. Talking about it later, I kind of think he might have been better off being able to sneak around crates and have some things in the middle that block line of sight, but, you know, we'll see. So here you see the table after we've deployed the urban furniture. I made sure that I put all the street lights lighting up that helipad, all of them that I could. He really liked those sewers, so he was trying to put them in strategic places. He wants to deny me those shipping container stacks. He wants to be able to either see me or get at me through the sewer markers. I didn't want that. I tried to put the sewer markers in just kind of in dead areas in no man's land. He tried to do the same with the lamppost, so I suppose that's fair. I really like the fact that we both use 3 standard now. We don't roll for it. You can see my deployment right there. We've got Flash and Arrow on the left side. They're going to buzz forward. They're definitely the faster people. And then I've got the thin blue line. I've got Officer Hall, Officer West, John Diggle, and Officer Lance lined up on the right. That's the closest route I had to that helipad. They're going to clump together and they're going to move as a team. Here's my opponent's deployment. Minus, let's see, who gets to... I think William Cobb gets to infiltrate. Yeah, that looks right. So it looks like we have the Butcher on the left. We have Zhao Lung right next to him in the center. That looks like their leader, Benjamin Orchard. Then we have Brandon O'Malley and Strix. Then it's time to place objectives. So here you can see I've placed the ammo as close as possible to me. I've placed the riddles pretty close there. Over by Flash and Arrow, I have my Titan container as well as another riddle. He, of course, does much the same thing. He's got his loot counter as close as possible to him in the upper right corner. He's got a Titan container and an ammo objective. And so that's the objectives. And here behind the tow truck, we have, what's that guy's name? William Cobb. William Cobb is missing a right arm and a head for this battle, but, you know, they're reanimated dead people, so they can shake it off. Anyway, that's where he's moved up to using undercover or whatever the rule is. So we take a counter from the Bag of Destiny and I get my green counter. So I get to choose who goes first or second. I choose to let him go first. But of course, first there's the Speed Force phase, which I'm really looking forward to. So TV Flash, he draws his 5 speed counters and he uses the first 2 to move up 12 inches. So he does super speed level 1, super speed level 2, then he gives himself fast combo and muscle growth. So I've used all my speed counters and I haven't had to take a single paradox roll and I've used 4 different powers. So already I am enjoying this. And he buzzes himself really close to that helipad. I could have gone a little bit further, but I don't need those ninjas jumping on me right away. Those guys are fast. Here's the thing about second edition. The slow people appear to get slower, and the fast people appear to get faster. So Gotham Butcher, the big guy, for example, he has a basic move of 8 inches. I think Strix has a move of 7 inches. So most of his guys are really fast. He takes the first activation, and Zhao Lung buzzes over and gets right underneath that loot, looking to grab that in the next turn. It's my turn, and I just take Officer Lance, and he takes cover using the Street Guy rule. Looks like I missed a picture in there. I don't know what he activated next, but John Diggle goes, and he's my next activation, and he goes to join Officer Lance by that crate. Okay, so then he starts moving his guys up a little bit faster. Here comes... Again, I gotta remember these names. That's William Cobb. He comes and he claims the Titan objective and grabs himself a Titan dose in the process. Alright, I'm gonna continue on. I'm gonna make my crowd of cops coming to protect that helipad. Some helicopter bringing in contraband for the Court of Owls invasion of Starling City. So Joe West comes to join the crew. Now we have Benjamin Orchard. He just creeps forward, taking cover behind those shipping containers, and he inspires the people around him. So he hands out an extra movement counter to Brandon O'Malley and to Strix. Officer Hall comes to join the growing firing line of police officers. And Brandon O'Malley does something a little bit unusual. He goes and takes off laterally across the far edge of the table, and he creeps around that stack of shipping containers right there. He's going to try and circle all the way around or something crazy. We're not sure what he's doing right away. But that gives me a bit of an opportunity. So I've been tracking where my opponent's going, and I now know that no one except for William Cobb is going to claim an objective, to my knowledge. I don't think Strix is gone yet, but I don't think she's going to... It doesn't look like she's going to grab an objective. So I take TV's arrow, Oliver Queen, and he uses his hook arrow to zip himself over to the ammo crate. Now, I had a lot of options with this guy. I thought about putting him up on the shipping container to give him a good firing line. I thought of moving him far over to try and inspire some of those cops to get them moving forward. I should have deployed him with those cops to inspire him in that first round. I didn't even think about it. So that's something to consider for the next time. But in this case, I saw an opportunity. So I buzz over to that ammo objective because Arrival gives 3 extra victory points to the first person to control one of their own objectives. And I have a plan to make sure I am one of those people. So he does that. William Cobb has stealth, so I can't actually fire an arrow at him. And since I haven't expended any ammunition yet, I can't draw a new one. So Oliver Queen is just going to chill. Okay, here comes Strix. She destroyed the lamppost. So now the lamppost is gone. So here's my master plan. TV's Flash runs over and unloads all his attack dice on William Cobb. I managed to do 2 stun, which is not bad. It's about average. But more importantly, I grab a Titan dose, and I am now basing both the Titan objective and William Cobb. And so now he can't claim victory points for them. So that means at the end of that round, I get 3 victory points for controlling my ammo objective, and I get the bonus 3 victory points for being the first player to control it, and he doesn't get his 2 victory points for that Titan container. So I'm really happy with what Flash has accomplished so far. Here's the next round. I believe we draw a, a Court of Owls die, so they take the lead this round. No problem. I don't really want TV's Flash to get jumped on by 2 Court of Owls people, so my plan is to buzz him away and fire some Speed Force Lightning as he goes. So here you see he moves away 4 inches, and then he's going to fire his Speed Force Lightning at William Cobb. Now that's got a paradox roll of 6+, so I roll that die and I immediately get a 6. Well, that could be bad, so I go and I roll those again, and I get double ones, meaning Barry Allen suddenly decides, hey, you know what would be better? It'd be better if I go back in time and actually save my mom after all. And so he blinks himself out of the timeline. He counts himself as a casualty. Everyone forgets who that guy was. He gives a pile of victory points to my opponent for doing that. He gets like 4 or 5 for getting a free agent casualty. He gets an extra 1 because Barry Allen is scientific, and he gets an extra 1 on top of that because you get, in this scenario, you get an extra victory point to be the first player to make an enemy model go casualty. So, thanks, Barry. What a dummy. Just like the TV show. First opportunity. You know, I've only used this Green Arrow crew in like 5 games, and Barry Allen has managed to warp himself out of existence in 2 of them. Nice job. Moving on. I was looking like I was in a little bit of a trouble here. Basically, I've got 2 of these ninja people bearing down on Oliver Queen, who's standing there by the ammo objective. And I'm a little bit concerned about that. But I go and this is something I normally don't do. Since he took the initiative this round, he had to deploy his counters first. He had to raise his plan. And so I went and I took a look at what Strix and William Cobb had on their cards. Strix only had 2 attack dice, so I was thinking, I'm not too worried about that. That looks like she's planning on throwing darts or something like that, so I'm not too worried. William Cobb had a lot of attack dice, and he had popped his Titan this round. So he was looking like he was going to be more trouble, but he didn't have enough movement dice to actually get to me. So I thought, oh, well, he must be holding back, waiting for someone to come forward or something like that. So I'm not too worried about that either. So I set Oliver Queen up to fire his multi-fire, and I think I'm pretty smart. Unfortunately, I am not, because what my opponent does is he takes Benjamin Orchard, his leader, and he zips him out from behind cover, and he uses Inspire. And now William Cobb has an extra movement die, and now he can reach pretty much anyone who's important. And that's a big concern. The only good news is that he didn't just pounce on Oliver Queen right away. So that gives me an activation to try and do something about that. And so what I do is I take John Diggle, being the hero that he is, he's going to run up into the center of the helipad, and he's going to mostly just try and get in the way. He's going to try and prevent people from getting a nice clean run to Oliver Queen. Because even with this extra movement die that William Cobb just got, it's real close to him basing Oliver Queen. So John Diggle runs up and he whistles Strix. So now she can't use movement dice. So now she can't reach Oliver Queen. And then he takes a shot at her, because why not? He takes a shot with his handgun, and since she's out of movement dice, she can't dodge, and he manages to hit her and hand her a blood and a stun. So that all was pretty good. Strix didn't care for that a whole lot, so she actually walks forward. Now, she can still walk like 7 inches, so she's got plenty of movement. And she gets into contact with John Diggle, and she does her 2 attacks, and she causes 2 blood to him, but because of John Diggle's Kevlar vest, he only takes 1. All right, now here's where I mess up. We know this rule, and I don't know why we played it wrong. I know this rule, my opponent knows this rule, and so I feel kind of bad about this. I don't think it'll change the outcome of the game, but I do feel kind of bad about this. So Oliver Queen goes and uses multi-fire, and he uses good aim, which is just a fantastic combination now. He's going to be one of the most accurate people in this game. He also has shooter. So he fires 3 serrated arrows, the sharp arrows, into Strix, who can't dodge. She's been whistled, so she's -1 defense. Oliver Queen uses good aim, so he gets +1 to hit. And of course, he's Master Marksman, so if I do happen to roll a 1, I get to re-roll it. And he just hits a ton of times. Now, I actually managed to either miss or not wound with one of those attacks. So I only hand out like 4 blood damage to her. But between that and John Diggle shooting her earlier, that's enough to make her go KO. And so that's great. But here's where I mess up. Because I use multi-fire, I can't actually move. I think what happened is I used the multi-fire, and then I looked at him and said, hey, can he just drop down from that grate? And we thought, yeah, you can spend a movement counter and drop down. And we got hung up on the idea of him dropping, not realizing that that's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is that he can't move after he multi-fires. So he shouldn't have been able to move back like that. Given the choice, I would have stayed where I was and just kept shooting as opposed to move back. I don't think that would have been a problem. But again, I feel kind of bad about that because it would have changed how the game played out. Not necessarily the outcome, but, well, you know, take a look and you'll see. But anyway, Strix is down, and I'm feeling really good about that. Here comes William Cobb. I honestly think that my opponent probably would have gone after John Diggle one way or the other. He hates John Diggle. John Diggle's just a tank. He can take just a ton of damage. And here's why. So William Cobb is all juiced up on Titan. He comes storming in with his combo with knives and just goes to town on John Diggle. But like a champ, he takes it on the chin. He takes a total of 6 blood damage, but again, because of the Kevlar vest, that goes down to 5. So he's taking 6 blood damage. He's got 7 endurance. He is up and still swinging with 1 health left. And so, good job, John. My activation, and here's another piece of good news. Officer Joe West just has enough movement to run up, hop over, get into contact with the, the ammo objective. And he also has a movement and a special to spare to put the cuffs on Strix and toss her in the police van. She is arrested and off the table, and I'm happy about that. She can go cool her heels at the Starling City Police Department. Probably literally cool her heels, because apparently these owls hate cold and Batman likes putting them in the morgue when they get arrested. So that might be what she's doing. Anyway, here comes Zhao Lung. He hops up and he grabs the loot. Here we have Officer Hall. She's running up. She's got her med pack. For whatever reason, she couldn't actually heal John Diggle this round. I'm not entirely sure why, but that's the fact of it. Remember Brandon O'Malley, who was creeping along the far side of the board? So he has climbing claws. So what he did was he climbed up on a stack of shipping containers and he warped into the sewer. So however that works in the new game, he pops into the sewer and he immediately pops out on the sewer marker right above Oliver Queen's head. So he's creeping up, he's got his 2 knives, and he's got his assassin skill. My opponent is looking to take out my leader with a very dramatic dive from above from Brandon O'Malley. Officer Lance here, he's got a couple of shots. I can't see Brandon O'Malley because of stealth, which is too bad, but I can see William Cobb, and so he takes a series of shots at him. He gets a ping. I do manage to get a blood and a stun through, so that was pretty good. But here comes trouble. Here comes the Gotham Butcher. You can see I've knocked over the street light. He makes a charge attack, so he comes storming up the stairwell of the helipad. He smashes the street light on his way by, and that's looking to be a really big problem. So it's the next round. We draw the die of destiny, and we see who gets to go first. And I'm really nervous about this because nothing looks good. I think what I don't want most of all is I don't want Brandon O'Malley jumping down and stabbing Oliver Queen. That would really wreck me. Not only the possibility of Oliver Queen taking lots of damage, but just having someone in base contact with him so he can't do his awesome multi-fire. The good news is that I just have a ton of guns standing around. So whatever he does, someone else is going to take the hit, whether it's William Cobb or the Gotham Butcher or anyone like that, and and even Brandon O'Malley himself. So something bad is going to happen, but I can punch back relatively hard. What my opponent really wants to do is charge out the Gotham Butcher. And so he makes another charge attack, and here's a mistake that we made. We didn't realize that the charge attack has to be done in a straight line. Since there's no runs anymore, you don't have to run in a straight line. We just assumed that when you charged, you could make angles and all that kind of thing as well. But you can't. You have to actually do your charge in a straight line. So he did kind of a right angle. He probably could have charged straight regardless. But anyway, he does a free attack on Joe West, he does a free attack on Officer Hall, and he does a free attack on Diggle. And he does some damage. And with the addition of his extra attacks, he manages to take out John Diggle, but the rest of the cops come out fairly well. I don't think they take a lot of damage, if any. It helps that I've started to pile up defense dice on these guys. I realize they're not going to move very far, so I start giving them defense dice, and I really like Officer Hall's defensive tonfa. It allows her to re-roll her blocking dice, so they're okay for now. But their sacrifice, especially Diggle's sacrifice, gives Oliver Queen chance to notice Brandon O'Malley leaping off that upper shipping container, and he looks up and he fires 3 serrated arrows because he gave himself another ammo of that back when he was by the ammo crate, and he tags him 3 times in the chest as Brandon O'Malley is leaping down to stab me, and he plugs him all those times. He does 6 blood damage and just kills him, bam, and Brandon O'Malley falls dead at Oliver Queen's feet. And so, whew, that was an owl who had failed that city. So good job, Oliver Queen. Here we have Zhao Lung. He just walks over and bases the ammo objective, so he's going to be generating 4 victory points a round for my opponent, which isn't great. Joe West does not like all these people running around. He does not want to be near them at all. He moves over and he gets to the riddle objective. He's a detective, right? No, not in this game. So he doesn't solve it, but he doesn't lose anything. He rolls like a 2 or a 3, so nothing happens and the riddle marker goes away. Here's more bad news. Here comes Benjamin Orchard. Now he bases the Titan canister, so that's another 2 victory points for my opponent, and he grabs a dose of Titan. Here comes Officer Lance. Officer Lance sees no reason not to fill the Gotham Butcher full of lead, so he uses his last magazine of ammo. He uses his last ammo for his handgun to shoot the Gotham Butcher a bunch. And so he hands out like 2 blood and 2 stun to that guy, and he moves a bit closer to that Titan container. I'm kind of thinking if these ninjas want to go and kill a bunch of people, I at least want them to spread out, and I want them to get further away from the objectives. William Cobb goes and attacks Officer Hall there, but again, he doesn't do fantastic. I think he hands out like 3 blood damage to her, which is not bad. But because of those, because he's not on Titan anymore, and because she's got that defensive tonfa, she does okay. And in her turn, she just inches just a little bit away from him so that she's not in base-to-base contact anymore, but she is still in contact with that ammo objective, netting me those sweet 3 victory points. You can see that dice cube that we've got set up underneath William Cobb so that he doesn't fall off the stairs and stuff like that. Okay, so it's round 4, and and I believe I get the initiative this round. Yes, I do. So I've got a lot of decisions to make. I've got some hurt owls that are in the middle of my cops ready to cause a lot of damage. I've got Oliver Queen all ready to rock with a bunch of other arrows. I don't know if this is the right call, but I decide I'm going to use his concussion arrows, which give the flash effect. They are not as good as they used to be. They don't make them blind anymore, so they can still use movement dice, and they don't hit and block on 6s, but instead they are to hit and to block -2. And I think that's as good as anything. I'm going to fire 2 arrows at William Cobb, and I'm going to fire 1 arrow at the Butcher. If I roll well enough, I can actually KO William Cobb. I don't quite roll well enough, but I do hit and wound both those guys. So they both take a blood and a stun. I actually think I might have told my opponent that they just take 2 stun, which is incorrect. But anyway, they now have the flash effect, and so not great, but not terrible either. He activates the Butcher, and he does another sort of roundy round charge attack. Again, it doesn't do much to Hall, but it probably does use up her defense dice. And then he goes to Joe West, and Joe West is just being a champ. He is, you know, he's from Central City. He's used to fighting supervillains on his beat, and he is not going to go down without a fight. And so Gotham Butcher not able to take out Joe West yet again. So as my activation, I have no idea why I do this, but Officer Joe West doesn't want to be over there. He's going to come over to this side, and he's going to base that ammo objective. We're just going to make things hard for my opponent. Honestly, at this time, since Officer Lance is out of ammo and Flash is gone, Oliver Queen is my only damage dealer. None of these cops are any good at actually attacking people anymore. Even though these guys are super hurt, there's just not much point in me putting attack counters on these guys. So they, after Oliver Queen goes, it's just me trying to hold on to my victory point lead any way I can and try to keep these cops alive. And so far they're doing a great job. It's his activation. He just keeps Zhao Lung exactly where he is, netting him all those victory points. For my activation, I run up Officer Lance, and I grab myself a Titan dose. I keep myself a little bit forward. I'm not really sure why. I've got a lot of defense dice. I'm not super worried about Benjamin Orchard. Maybe I should be. He hasn't activated his Titan dose yet. He's just hanging out there getting victory points. Benjamin Orchard comes up, and he's not going to take that. He leaves his objective, comes over to attack me, takes a couple of swings with his sword at Officer Lance. Officer Lance is not worried. This is not the first time that he's fought some martial arts ninja guy, and he blocks them all. Benjamin Orchard, he's got a handy weapon. He's weapon master. He's going to hit all he likes, but he's got an attack of 2. So it's almost automatic that someone is going to defend against him if they have the dice, and Officer Lance had the dice. Okay, it's round 5, and I get that all-important green die, meaning that it's my activation first. Oliver Queen takes this opportunity. Man, this guy has been doing the work for me today. Everything that he has shot at has been within 8 inches, so that shooter skill is just paying for itself time and time again. He doesn't have to give up any of his hits to pings. That good aim, giving me that +1 to hit, has been really nice against these defense 4 Court of Owls guys. So he takes one of his standard arrows and just shoots the garbage out of William Cobb. And so that guy is super, super dead, and Oliver Queen notches up another kill this game. And now the Butcher comes around again. This is the round where we discover that he should have been going in a straight line, but it doesn't matter. Officer Hall is fine once again, but poor Joe West, he finally succumbs. Now, he actually ends up doing 3 blood and a stun to him. So Officer West is not out. He is just KO. He is hanging on to life by a thread, but he is absolutely still on the table. And I have an idea too. So Officer Hall comes up, she bases Joe West, and she uses her medikit to patch him up. She takes away blood damage. He is awake. He is fine. He can't activate this round, but otherwise he is looking a little bit better. Now, Rereading that medic rule, I'm not entirely sure that I played it right. It says this model can't use this skill if they are based by an enemy. And it's unclear whether they're talking about the model that you're healing or the model that's doing the healing. So if I'm wrong, if they don't want the model that's being healed in contact with an enemy, then I apologize to my opponent. But, there's a 50-50 chance I'm right? Anyway. All right, here is the battle of the champions. Benjamin Orchard and Officer Lance have both popped their Titan dose, and they are getting ready to have the battle of the century. Not really, because Officer Lance has not put any dice or counters into attack. He's not interested in that at all. I know I'm not going to take out this leader or anyone important with my baton. I put them all in defense and movement. But anyway, Benjamin Orchard gets to go first, and he slashes with his sword 3 times, and he hits 3 times, but I've got 4 dice in defense, and I stop them all. So, yes, Officer Lance is absolutely doing the work here. And now it's his activation. He just runs around Benjamin Orchard like he's just no threat whatsoever. He goes to that riddle. He solves that for a nice 2 victory points. And good job. We'll promote you to detective one of these days. Last round of the game. We know my opponent is going to take the lead. There's nothing I can do about it. Gotham Butcher activates. He's really hurt, but he did recover a bunch of stuns the round before. He's going to try and finish off all these cops around him. He throws all his attacks around. Joe West is still there, still alive, still kicking. Officer Hall sadly takes that last point of blood damage. Can't hang in there, and she's going to take a trip to the hospital. But she did absolutely great. My activation, Oliver Queen goes. He's going to line up his last shot on the Gotham Butcher. He's going to hand out a bunch more damage, but I am 1 endurance point away from taking that guy out. He is still around. He is still up. Couldn't quite bring that guy down, which is a shame, but there you go. Officer West jumps over, doesn't want to be in base contact with Gotham Butcher anymore, doesn't want to be lying on the ground anymore, just goes to claim that ammo container for the last round of the game. My opponent's activation, Benjamin Orchard goes. He abandons the Titan container. He's going to finish off Officer Lance. He takes his sword to Officer Lance, sees it coming, he blocks him 2 more times, not concerned. Not worried about trying to take out Benjamin Orchard. That's a job for the vigilante. He's going to go and he's going to secure that evidence over there. He's going to grab that Titan container. And of course, Xiao Lung is just going to sit on his ammo objective. He's going to net him his victory points. That is the end of the game. That was super close. It ended up being 28 to my opponent. It was 34 to me. I made this big early lead, lost it a bit when Flash went and zapped himself out of existence. I just throughout the game saw the Court of Owls gaining on me as they started grabbing objectives and bringing down my guys. But at the very end, the Green Arrow crew again sees victory against the Court of Owls. They can go find some other city to hang out in. They can go hang out in Bloodhaven. They can go hang out in Central City. We are not putting up with their kind over here. Anyway, that game was absolutely a lot of fun. It was the first time I had played the Arrival scenario. I really liked it. I think that having an open area allowed me to concentrate a lot of firepower on these guys, where if it was more cluttered in the center, maybe they wouldn't have been so vulnerable to arrows and handguns and stuff like that. I don't really know. I'm super proud of my cops. They hung in there for a long time. I think maybe my opponent was not as focused on the objectives as he could have been. I don't think the Butcher really had much of a chance, because I just surrounded that ammo objective with a meat shield of cops, which is why I think Oliver Queen moving away might not have been such a big deal, because I don't think there would have been a great way for some of those assassins to get into contact with him, even if he was still there after I swarmed it with police officers. If he had based the objectives instead of basing my models, I think he would have denied me a lot of victory points. For example, that last round, if he had, for example, not gone after Officer Lance, and he had instead just stayed on my Titan objective, or even gone to his own Titan objective, he would have prevented me from getting those 2 victory points. That ammo objective was getting me lots of points every round. There was just, if he didn't actually have a guy in contact with that ammo objective, there's really no way he could keep all those cops from claiming it in some way, especially since those guys just didn't want to die. Joe West in particular, just absolutely a hero, just took all these shots from the Gotham Butcher and just shrugged it off. So great job for that guy. Highly recommend 2nd edition. It was a lot of fun. This was a great game. I think that the rules worked really smoothly. I'm sorry for the rules that I got wrong. There's really no excuse for it because it's not that different a game. But I did like the way it flowed. I think it went a lot. I don't know if it went a lot faster, but I think it played really fast. I think it played really cinematically. And yeah, I can absolutely recommend it. I will try and bring you guys more battle reports, when I get the opportunity to play more games. And so yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one.